what is Encanto about?
So Encanto is about a girl and her family. Her family is this amazing, special, extraordinary group of people who have magical powers, and she does not have one. And so our story is really about her trying to understand herself, her role, and then the members of her family around her. And she slowly comes to understand that she actually doesn't really know her family as well as she thinks she does, and they don't really know her. And so it's really a story of her journey to understand them better and ultimately understand herself as well.
What is the backstory of our film? How did the Madrigals find themselves in the Encanto?
That's a great question. So, sort of the foundational myth of our family is that, like a lot of other families, actually from Colombia, throughout the sort of Latin American world, and honestly throughout the world, you know, they had to flee their home. They had to flee violence. And in the case of this family, as they were fleeing, the abuelo, the grandfather of this family, was lost, and our film sort of takes that moment of loss and desperation, and we're actually reflecting on the unconditional love that Abuela Alma, who's the matriarch of this family, had for the whole family in that moment. So in our family, in this moment of heartbreak and desperation, her love kind of creates this miracle, creates a new home for her family and for the people that she has brought along with her, her community. So it's both grounded in an experience that is unfortunately a lot of people have had, but then is, again, as Byron was saying, inspired by magical realism, sort of takes on this other dimension where the family finds a new home and finds sanctuary and a new beginning.
Jared, why did Encanto have to be musical? Describe working with Lin-Manuel Miranda and how the songs became part of the storytelling.
Okay, so why did this movie have to be musical? Lynn said this movie has to be a musical. That's why it's a musical. No, from the beginning, we were really lucky that Lin-Manuel Miranda was part of our core creative team. So not just in writing the songs, but really putting the entire story together. We knew that we wanted to tell a story of this large extended family, and we wanted to do that through music, and there's no better way to do that. We knew, it was going to be set in Colombia, and Colombia has an amazing array of all different types of genres of music that really reflect this wide tapestry of Latin music in general. And so to be able to combine these amazing music styles with very specific character types and sort of wed them together, first off, we knew it was going to be super fun and entertaining and let Lynn really let him go loose. But it also allowed us to have songs that could be like a reggaeton, which is a very modern type of music, and then a song like Dos Orejitas, which is really feels like a folk song that's been around for 100 years. And so we really wanted to, in telling a story about this very large family, all of whom are very different, to have the music represent that as well.
Charise, Byron touched on this a bit, and you can kind of elaborate. What kind of gifts have the Madrigal children received? Explain how the magical gifts are reflections of our real life roles within our families.
That is a great question. So, from the very beginning, we really wanted to create, there's 12 people in this family, so we wanted to create characters that everyone would be able to relate to, as themselves, or see their own family members in. So we really kind of started out with family archetypes, right? So Byron was touching on Isabella sort of as the golden child, the one who can do no wrong, the perfect kid. And so we thought, okay, so based off of this family role that a lot of us can recognize and know well, what's a gift that she could have? Flowers out of her footsteps. So from then, we started thinking about, Julieta, who's Mirabel's mom. She is the caretaker, the nurturer, the healer, and so we gave her the ability to heal through food. We have Peppa, who is an aunt who has a wide range of emotions. And so we thought, okay, there's those people who they enter a room and it's like the weather in the room sort of changes. So based off of that, we're like, okay, so what if she actually can control the weather with her emotions? And then, Camilo, we were like, everybody's got like a little drama kid in their family who can shapeshift and do impressions. So that's him. Antonio, who's the youngest. we all know that shy kid who maybe feels not so comfortable talking to people, but he's really close to animals, and that's where Antonio and his ability to communicate with animals came from. So we really just tried to start with, in all the instances, like from very relatable family archetype roles, and then say, okay, if this was magic, what would it be? And that's where we sort of got all these different magical powers.
Jared, who is Bruno, and why did the Madrigals not talk about him?
Yeah, well, we don't talk about Bruno, so I don't know if I can answer the question. Bruno is one of the original 3 triplets that Abuela Alma had the night that the Encanto was created. He is somebody who was given the gift of being able to see the future, but he's somebody who kind of only saw the negative things coming in the future. As a result of that, he kind of had a difficult relationship with his mom, Abuela Alma. And not to give away any spoilers, but he didn't feel right within the family. He couldn't really find his place. He's sort of the black sheep, and he left the family. Over the course of the story, you start to understand why he made that choice, what he's been up to, and what he really cares about. And so he's a character, I think, ultimately that you'll find his story, once you get the full fleshed out version of who he is, is one of my favorite characters, and somebody who I think people are really going to enjoy watching.
Charise, how would you describe the house and how it almost is another character in the story?
Oh, I mean, the house 100% is his own character in this story, from very early on, Jared and Byron had this idea of a living house and a house that was kind of reflective and encompassed the family that lived in it, right? And so we went through a lot of different evolutions of what that could mean and who that character would be, but the one that we landed on and loved the most was the idea of the house as kind of the family dog, The family dog has a different relationship to each person in the family, maybe it loves to sleep on one person's bed and sort of has a little beef with another person, but that it would be just an intimate member of the family that would have really specific opinions and desires and would just be like a fun, joyous reflection of this family. But the journey that the house takes throughout the film is very reflective of the family in a really close way. So the house is really both its own character and a reflection of the family.
Tell me about the voice cast ensemble for this film.
Oh, wow. I think that our cast is one of the most ambitious that we've ever had. We've never tried to put an extended family on screen before at Disney Animation. We have 12 main characters. And each of those characters had to separate. You had to fall in love with them. You had to not just present what we expect of those characters, but then throughout the movie to start to change that and start to see these different facets. And so when we started to actually cast, of course, we needed to start with Mirabel. The whole movie is anchored by her. And we needed somebody who could be vulnerable and super funny and really be able to sing lots of different types of music. So Stephanie Beatriz, when she came in, I think right away we knew that she was someone super, super special, somebody who could do all of those things. And then also she brought so much of herself into that role. A lot of what you hear is actually ad-libs that she did in the recording booth. And there's just a very specific personality that she was able to find with Mirabel, which is this unbelievably human, flawed, very real type of character. And then for every other member of the family, whether that was, I think next up was John Leguizamo as Bruno, who's this secret we've actually had to keep for quite a long time. I think early on, we knew that we needed someone in Bruno that could also do a lot of different things. Somebody who, when Mirabel comes into contact with, that you really bought that relationship. And so having John be part of that was really, really exciting for us. Also, that he gets to rap in the movie is amazing. That's a really, really fun day. And then Maria Cecilia Botero, who plays Abuela Alma, one of maybe the most tricky role in the entire movie. Somebody who you have to believe cares about her family, but is also stern at times, but can also be lovable and fun. And I think trying to walk that line where you empathize with her, but she can also sometimes be the antagonist for our story is really, really tricky. I can't imagine anybody but Marise being able to tackle that role. And then beyond that, we have this amazing cast of really emotional, comedic, very funny, unbelievable singers as well. I think between Diane Guerrero, who plays Isabella, and Jessica Darrow, who plays Luisa, we knew we needed to have the strong sisters in there. And then the other side of the family, you have Adasa's Dolores, who's hilarious, and Renzi Feliz, who plays Camilo, who's awesome, and Ravi Kabit-Conyers playing little Antonio. You have to believe that this little kid, first off, that has this amazing relationship with Mirabel, but has all of that vulnerability a child does. And then you have the parents, Angie Cepeda, who plays Julieta, Mirabel's mother, and Wilmer Valderrama. We knew that they had to feel like a real couple, and we loved the chemistry between the two of them. I think Wilmer had some of our funniest outtakes of the entire project. And then on the other side, you have Carolina Gaitan, who plays the very mercurial Pepa, who is hilarious and over the top, intentionally so, who's super, super fun, and Mauro Castillo, who plays Felix, and is just the life of the party. You want to spend every day. So I think for all of us, we feel hugely, hugely in awe of our cast, and so lucky that we were able to go on this journey with them.
Charise, you're gonna round us off.
Sure.
What do you hope audiences take away from seeing this film?
Oh my goodness. I think my biggest wish is that audiences walk away from this film and they say, let me think about my own family. Let me think about like what maybe I assume about them and maybe don't know. How can I ask questions? How can I get to know people better on their own terms? So if this movie starts dialogues between people and their families and sort of prompts us to look more closely and be curious, that's amazing. I would love that.
Byron, this is for you.
Okay.
How did Colombia inspire your storytelling?
So yes, that's a great question. So Colombia was an incredible inspiration for Encanto. As a matter of fact, 5 years ago this week, we started working on this film with Lin-Manuel Miranda. Lin was very keen to have this musical set in Latin America, but none of the three of us knew where it should be set. And so we really started diving in and looking at what setting would be perfect. And Colombia is this amazing crossroads of culture, of music, incredibly diverse families. And what we loved about it was that it's also one of the original places where magical realism came from in literature. And magical realism as a style of literature was a huge inspiration for how we're telling the story of Encanto. Plus, it's just an incredible country. It's got maybe the most biodiverse number of animals and plants anywhere in the world. And we really, 90 minutes is a short amount of time to try to represent the amazing scope of Colombia. But for the last 5 years has been an amazing learning experience for us about that country and how warm and wonderful the families and people are of Colombia.
Who is Mirabel and why does she feel a little bit out of an outsider in her own family?
So Mirabel is the main character of our story in Encanto. And as part of the incredible Madrigal family, she's surrounded by extraordinary people on all sides. So in this world, your gift in your family relates to your role in your family. For instance, Luisa, her sister, is the rock of the family, so she's incredibly strong. Her sister Isabella is incredibly perfect. She's like the perfect example of a Madrigal. So flowers actually bloom in her footsteps. She can do no wrong. She's brilliant. Her mother heals with food, and her cousin shapeshifts, and it's just an incredible family to be a part of. But I think, like all of us, she might feel a little less than worthy of, and like wondering like what she brings to this family, how this family that she loves so much, how can she be there for her family as much as these other superheroes are? And as soon as we started pitching the idea of the movie, this magical family, the one character that kept coming out as being the main character that the whole story was based on was Mirabel. I think because everyone can kind of relate in one way or the other to not feeling as worthy as we want to be.
Describe the look of Encanto.
So the look of Encanto from the very beginning was something that we wanted to feel special and to reflect this idea that the film is inspired by magical realism. Charise, very early on, I think it was almost as soon as she came on, we talked about the look of this, and she said it feels like it should be romantic, and meant not romantic as in sort of passion, that kind of thing, but as far as like emotion. It felt like that was a great way to sum up for our art team and our cinematographers and how we would want this movie to look. So that idea of this heightened romantic look made its way into the character design, into the color of the movie. It's just one of the most vibrant, brilliant films that I think we've ever done. The beautiful cinematography, the choreography, which is incredible and on a level that we've never ever done before at Disney Animation. All of it kind of goes into heightened, romantic, emotional storytelling. And matter of fact, another thing Charise said, which I thought was very, very key, was that when you're 15, like Mirabel is, you're kind of in a magical realism state of mind anyway. Like you're writing in your journal, like, this is the best day ever, or oh my God, my life is terrible. So you're up and down. And so I think all of us can relate to the inspiration of storytelling that comes from emotion, where magic comes from emotion, where the colors are brighter, the sky is bluer, or the rain is hitting you harder. So I think there's something about that that feels like it's just a very immersive place, Colombia, when you go, and the fact that the music and the choreography and the storytelling, all of it rotates around that romantic, emotional idea.
How does the song Dos
Oruguitas? Mm-hmm.
Oruguitas.
extend beyond the film storytelling?
Yes, Lin-Manuel has written 8 incredible original songs for this film. What I love about this is that they're all so different. Like every song feels very tied into the characters that are singing it and the storytelling that we needed for that part of the film. Dos Oruguitas is this tender, beautiful song that Lin wrote. And when he was writing it, he said, I want the song to feel like it's been around for 100 years, like it could be a song you might hear being played by a singer in a town square, a song that everybody knows. Everyone knows this beautiful, heartfelt, heartbreaking song. And he, to his credit, he did it. He came in with this amazing story of these two people, the love they have for each other, their life that they imagine together, and the unexpected challenges that they face, and that transformation that comes from that. And Dos Oruguitas is also, Lin told us, the first song he's ever written in Spanish from beginning to end. And it's performed by Sebastian Yatra, who is an incredible Colombian singer. And it is, every time I see it, I tear up. And the beautiful storytelling that our team has done, the animation, the lighting, and that incredible music is just, it really does transcend, like you said, the movie for me. It goes to something so intimate and personal and universal and emotional. So I can't say enough about it. It's one of my favorite songs in the whole piece.
Explain what your role was with Encanto and how it fits into Disney's animation's desire to be authentic and respectful to the culture, place featured in the film.
Well, so my role in Encanto, I first came in as an assistant choreographer and dancer. So Jamal Sims, which is the amazing, incredible choreographer of this film, he's American, and he wanted to make sure that the movement and the dance was authentic to Colombian culture. I've worked with him in the past, and so he called upon me, and it felt like a moment where the stars were just kind of aligning. And so he called upon me, and I'm grateful that he had the trust in me to make this happen. And so I took on this huge responsibility, and I did a lot of research, and outside of my own experience with Colombian dance and culture, we went in, we had a group of Latinx dancers as well, some from Colombia and other parts of Latin America, which was great because we had also their support to lend the authentic movement to all of our characters. So when we got the storyboards, we got the demos, we got the layouts, we got all this information, we understood what the characters were, we went in, we created these pieces to the amazing music and lyrics of Lin-Manuel Miranda. So once we did that, we shot the references, We then shipped that off to the animation team, and they went ahead and started creating. So also, I was brought in as a consultant for the animation side to also help out with not just the accuracy and the authenticity of the dance movement, but also ensure that culturally, the dance and aspects of the movement were being authentically represented culturally wise. So again, that was a huge responsibility for me, but I'm so grateful for it. And I learned so much during that process.
Thank you. The next one is, how would you describe the dance movement that represents Colombia at the time and place this film is set?
Well, we wanted to take as much of every region and showcase the diversity of Colombia music and dance. So we researched the different regions and the music and the dance that's associated to that region. And what we found was that, yes, there is definitely very unique styles and very unique music that goes with it. For example, the coastal area, the Caribbean area, it's very heavily influenced by African drumming and culture. And then you have more on the inland side, it's more influenced with strings and more European. And then you have an indigenous influence in the middle, closer to the Amazonian areas. So we trickled a little bit of each of that into our dance and into the film wherever we could. And then we also gave it a fresh approach. You know, reggaeton is a newer style. It's a newer style of music and dance. So when we heard that Lin created a song to that style, it was great because it was like a fresh new approach to Colombian culture.
Describe the process of working with filmmakers. Can you give an example of a sequence that you contributed to and how it all came together?
Yes, well, first of all, it was such a great learning process. The respect that I gained for the animation world is huge. I mean, I already I grew up on animation film, Disney films. So to now be in the trenches with them, seeing how they work and helping them just elevate the whole project was amazing. You know, I came in and I'm so grateful to Kira, Renato, and Michael for kind of taking me under their wings and showing me how the animation world works, the inner workings of how they animate. So what I found were two major things that we have in common, because we had to figure out how to communicate with one another. And the first thing I found was that we are very obsessed and very attentive to detail and how the body moves. You know, from the dance background, I am very aware of my body, and the dancers are very aware of every part of their body, the muscles, the shapes that we create with our bodies. And then we also can see that in another person. And in this case, watching the characters, I approach the characters like people. And so I would look at Mirabel, and if something felt a little off, you know, I can say, well, her shoulder needs to move up and back, you know? So in that, I realized the animation side is the same way. You know, there was a scene where Isabella's turning, and Renato pointed out that, you know, her hip is a little too turned out. And when I saw that, I was like, wait, you saw that? That was kind of like a aha moment, because I was like, wow, it really made me understand and appreciate and know that I could push the animators a little further and really kind of dive in there. And then the second thing was that we both approach movement with sound effects. So on a dancing side, we can create movement and choreography to the beats. So it'll be like on a count, right? On 1, 2, 3, 4. Or to hit a specific musicality, we'll do sound effects. Like we'll be like, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ta, boom, boom, ba, right? So on the animation side, what I realized is that they do the same. So when they'll say like, oh, she'll grab something, right? They can say she'll grab, or they can say she'll grab it, you know? And when I realized that too, we all like lost it, because we said, oh man, now this is like a perfect marriage of the two worlds. So I really feel like that elevated our collaboration that much greater.
Why do you want to be part of making Encanto?
I had the time of my life writing Moana with the Moana team, and I really wanted to be a part of Latino-themed Disney animated musical. I just thought my whole life's been preparing me for this. I've wanted to write musicals ever since Sebastian the Crab started singing Under the Sea, and I was thrilled to be in from the beginning and be so involved in the storytelling process and contributing to songs to this incredible movie.
What aspects of Colombia and Colombian music inspired you as a songwriter?
What was so exciting about visiting Colombia and doing a deep research dive into the musical diversity and different sounds that make up Colombian music was that it was like going to my cousin's house. You know, as someone with roots in Puerto Rico and Mexico, there are things that my music shares with Colombia, and there are things that really make Colombia distinct. And the things that make it distinct were the most exciting things to write to. The fact that accordion is at the center of a lot of the music, to have a Disney heroine playing accordion and singing the opening number of a Disney movie was really exciting to me. To write a vallenato in the style of Carlos Vives, and then have the great global hero Carlos Vives sing that song was really exciting. To have a Disney I Want song that is in 3/4 time, because so much of the folkloric music we heard from Colombia was in 3/4 time and on guitar and on tiple. Again, writing to that specificity always sort of unlocked what the characters needed to express.
Speaking on that, many of the characters have magical gifts, but we realize that's not always easy. Can you explain how music helps convey this idea and give an example?
Sure. I think that everyone except Mirabel in this family has a magical gift. And one of the things that was important to Jared and Charise as the screenwriters was that the gifts be an extension of the personalities of the characters themselves. So if Isabela is the golden child, literally flowers are blooming at her feet and she can make flowers grow. Luisa, her sister, is super strong, and the fun for me was finding the musical equivalents of those gifts and then turning them on their head when I needed to, because no one is defined by their gifts. No one is solely defined by one thing. So when Luisa's song Surface Pressure starts, it's as tough as she is. It's this tough reggaeton song. It's like diamonds and platinum. I find them, I flatten them, I take what I'm handed. It's just like incredible. I break what's demanded. But there's also this pressure, and there's also this, you flip it on its head and you reveal the soft underbelly and the incredible vulnerability she feels and the incredible responsibility and burden that is. So the fun was always in establishing these themes for these characters and then flipping them and seeing what is the other side of that gift? What is the other side of that theme, so that we can see each other more fully.
What is an I Want song, and what are examples from the Disney classics? What song did you write for Encanto that fulfills that piece of the story?
An I Want song is that moment in a Disney movie where our hero or heroine expresses their secret heart's desire, and it's the journey they're going to go on for the rest of the film. And what it really is the most intimidating spot in any Disney movie, because the legacy of Disney I Want songs is so strong. Now, Disney didn't invent the I Want song. There's an I Want song in Wicked. There's an I Want song in a lot of musicals, but Disney's got a pretty good lineup, whether it's Part of Your World from Little Mermaid, Reflection from Mulan, Out There from Hunchback of Notre Dame. They're Into the Unknown from Frozen 2, which is one of my favorite recent ones. It's an intimidating list. And the hardest part about writing an I Want song for Disney is the playlist this is going on after the movie comes out. And you want to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with those incredible, immortal tunes. And so it's always the hardest one to write. I remember locking myself in my childhood bedroom to write How Far I'll Go from Moana, because that was the only way I could sort of clear out the clutter of, the shadow of Let It Go to be able to write it. I had to really reconnect with my 16-year-old self to write that tune. And the same was true with Encanto, the song in that spot. It's called Waiting on a Miracle. And it's Mirabel, who has been holding in a lot. And she's proud of her family, she loves her family, and she knows deep down she isn't seen in the same way as the rest of her family, and she wants to be seen. And it's a lot of false starts and wrong songs to get to just the right song. And then it's taken to the next level by Beatriz's incredible performance. She just sang the heck out of it. And that's really what I think makes it soar.
What is We Don't Talk About Bruno about, and how does the song come together on the big screen?
We Don't Talk About Bruno is a family song in the middle of Encanto. And I pitched it because every family has the things we talk about at the dinner table and the things we don't, but we still talk about. We just can't talk about it in front of abuela or in front of mom. And I wanted to write a song like that, where everyone says, we don't talk about that, and then proceeds to talk about it. It also afforded us an opportunity to hear from some of the characters in our movie who we don't necessarily have the real estate to have a solo song from them, but I wanted to hear what they sounded like. I wanted to hear from their themes. And so the wonderful surprise of Camilo's section of the song, where he's made it into a ghost story and he's changing shape and turning into Bruno as he's describing him. Dolores, who has this magical hearing ability, and so she's the quietest one, and she actually talks the fastest, and she actually has the most insight on the family dynamic between Bruno and the rest of the family, because she listens to everything, but no one really asks her opinion, but she really knows everything. It was a joy to take dictation from Dolores when her musical voice emerged. And then the other one that's really delicious for me is Pepa and Felix, who were at the beginning of the song, and they're telling a story about how Bruno ruined their wedding, but they keep getting in each other's way telling the story. At one point, Pepa sings, "You telling this story or am I?" And Felix goes, "I'm sorry, maybe they'll go on." That's exactly my parents telling every story. And it was very nice to be able to sneak that into the movie.
What does Carlos Vives bring to the song Colombia, Mi Encanto?
I think for so many of us, Carlos Vives has been an incredible musical ambassador on behalf of Colombia. Even folks who don't know about the specifics of Colombian music know who Carlos Vives is. He just writes these immortal, beautiful songs and these beautiful vallenatos. And he is a life force and an 18-time Grammy winner. And it was a dream to get to work with him on this song. I was so proud of his rendition of the song I wrote, and how he brought it to another level with his musicians and his band. They took it to a place I never could have dreamed of.
What does Dos Oruguitas, a first in your songwriting career, how does this song extend beyond the film storytelling?
Yeah, Dos Oruguitas literally means two caterpillars. And this was a moment in the movie where we reveal a painful bit of family history, and it didn't feel right for a character to sing about it in real time. Every other song in the movie, actually with the exception of Colombia Mi Encanto, which is playing at the party, is a character singing about what they're going through. And what I wanted to do for this moment was write a folk song that feels like it's always existed. And I wanted to use nature imagery because so many of the great folk songs go to beautiful nature imagery. I was inspired by the animators. The animators had this beautiful butterfly motif throughout the film of the flame of a candle turning into a butterfly, and that butterfly turning into a miracle. And I just remember thinking, well, every butterfly is kind of a miracle when you think about it. Every butterfly is a caterpillar who has to destroy their own selves to become their next self. And so I had the idea of a song about two caterpillars in love who are scared to let each other go, but they have to let each other go because you can't become the next version of yourself unless you let go. And that was such a beautiful, natural metaphor for what the Madrigal family is going through. They are a family that loves each other, but they're all holding on too tight. And so that was really exciting to find that. And I went far out of my comfort zone in terms of the vocabulary in Spanish I needed. I'm much more fluent in English than in Spanish, but I felt very strongly I needed to write it in Spanish because that's how I would unlock it. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm really proud of it. And then, of course, Sebastián Yatra's beautiful rendition of the song in the movie takes it to a whole other place.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Stephanie, introduce Mirabel and the Madrigals. What makes her feel like an outsider in her whole family?
Okay. The Madrigals are a fantastic, extraordinary, magical family that live in an Encanto in Colombia. They're a multi-generational family, lots of members, all of them with special, fantastic, magical powers, except for one, Mirabel, which for Mirabel really stinks. It can be very difficult to feel special in a family where you look around and everyone has a special gift. And so that sort of is Mirabel's big journey, is whether or not she is kind of value if she's not a magical person.
John, who is Bruno in the Madrigal family? What is his gift and why don't they talk about Bruno?
Well, I play Bruno, and he's the uncle of the family, and he's been cast aside because his magical power was telling the future. And not everybody likes the idea, the consequences of some future things. And sometimes they thought, that's not what I want, so we don't like him, let's get rid of him. So that's why I don't talk about him. So his magical power is the future, and he's become sort of, because he's been ostracized, became this socially awkward guy, this quirky, weird dude, and that's who I play.
Stephanie, explain how the magical gifts are reflections of our real-life roles within our families.
All of the Madrigals have magical gifts, and they're sort of metaphors, really, for how we ourselves can function in our own families. So, for example, Luisa, who's Mirabel's oldest sister, she's really tough and strong. She's got it. She can handle everything. You know, not unlike a lot of older siblings are sort of the ones that are handling everything. Or, for example, Pepa, who is Mirabel's aunt. Aunt Pepa she's got a lot of emotions, and because of all her emotions, it can affect the weather around her. So it can be a sunny day, and then suddenly there can be a hurricane. We all have somebody in our family that, you know, their emotions suddenly can overtake the room and really affect the vibe. Often at a holiday function, you could feel that one. So all of the Madrigals sort of have these magical gifts that really are metaphors for how you yourself or other people in your family function within your family unit. And sometimes those gifts are a blessing, and sometimes they're a curse.
Nice.
Thank
John,
you.
Great answer. John,
Thank you.
how do Mirabel and Bruno relate to each other?
Well, Mirabel and Bruno relate to each other. I'm her uncle, and she's my niece. And the two of us are outsiders, misfits. We don't fit in the family. Mirabel, because she's in this extraordinary family with magical powers, and she's the only one, sadly, that doesn't have one. And I have a magical power that nobody wants, being able to tell the future, so I'm relegated to go away. And together we come together, and Mirabel gives him the confidence and helps him save the family, and together they save the casita.
Stephanie, Encanto is a musical. How would you describe the songs in the film? Do you have a favorite?
The songs in the film Encanto, how would I describe them? Good, great, fantastic, well done, well written.
A 10.
Yeah,
Out of
10s across the board. I mean, I think the music is so wonderful in this movie, and it's really like a gift to have been a part of it and sing these incredible songs. I think one of my favorites is actually We Don't Talk About Bruno, because of I just love it. It just gets caught in my head.
Yeah.
It gets caught, man. We don't talk about Bruno, no. It just gets in there, and that I think is also, you know, what Lin can do so very well, is he can write these hooks that just like,
it's
you know,
about
like
a
little hooks that just get
just
in there
in
and
your
they
head.
don't leave. I love them.
John, the film's setting is inspired by Colombia.
Well, I was so excited when I learned that Encanto, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda and Bryon and Charise, was set in Colombia. And they actually did research. They went to Colombia, went down there, went all around the country and picked up the most interesting and special things of the country, which is the food, the people, the love of family, and they put it in this movie. And I think that people are going to walk away here leaving going, I got to go to Colombia and find my Encanto.
Stephanie, second to last, what does the story say about finding our own strength and yourselves?
What does the story say about finding our own strengths by
love
being
this
ourselves?
before.
How do I put this? I think one of the things that Disney animation does so well is they allow you into the inner life of their heroes. And in this film, the inner life of the hero, Mirabel, is one of turmoil and is one of uncertainty. She's really unsure of who she is. She's not sure whether or not she belongs. But because of her love for her family and because of the possibility that their magic might disappear, she takes it upon herself to sort of be the hero that she didn't know that she could be. She forces herself to go on this like incredibly dangerous, scary, exciting, thrilling adventure because she loves her family so much. And I think one of the greatest things about this story is that she dares herself to go on that journey. I think that is so special because it's telling an audience, many of them very impressionable young people, that by daring yourself to believe in yourself, you could possibly become the hero of your own story.
What do you hope audiences take away from this?
Well, what I hope families take away from this movie is that we all have families. They're always a little quirky, a little kooky, but everybody fits in and everybody contributes to the family and everybody has a special place. Even if they don't know they have it, even if the other family members don't know it, everybody plays an important part in this family, and together they're stronger than separate.
Who do you play, and how does she fit into the family Madrigal? And what is your magical gift?
Luisa is who I play, and she's very much the rock of the family. She kind of holds it together by carrying churches and donkeys and wagons, does all the heavy lifting physically and metaphorically. She knows she's good at what she does, and she loves it very much, but she's definitely got a huge emotional life going on inside of there, and she really just wants to have her moment of letting that out. Her gift is super strength, so as we know, she's got a lot on her plate. She's balancing a lot.
Okay.
Why do you always look at me?
Can we get your same about the character?
Yeah.
And what your magical gift is?
Okay. I play Isabela Madrigal, and my special gift is to make beautiful flowers and make things grow and make things beautiful. And my character has to the very heavy burden of being perfect. And so throughout the film, you see her discover that she's more than just trying to be perfect, that there's more to life than that.
And I play Agustin, who is a father. And like Mirabel, he has no gift in this family, but surrounded by gifts, the ever optimistic that he is, he finds a way to understand that his gift is the gift of awareness, that he is not magical, but that is also awesome. Yes. So it's fun to portray a father that very much contradicts the stereotype or the archetype of what we all think of a Latin father should be, and at the same time have the same strength to protect his family and love them just the same.
Wilmer, who is Mirabel, and what is her relationship like with Augustine?
Mirabel is mi hija, my daughter, as we say, en español.
En
español. In many ways, I think he feels somewhat guilty Because the fact that Mirabel doesn't have a gift and he's the only one that doesn't, it can only be tied to one person in the family.
It's you.
It's your fault.
So I really feel like there is an overcompensation of like the fatherly figure and how he's desperately trying to relate to his daughter and have his daughter see that there is an upside, that it's gonna be okay. I mean, look at me. But does Mirabel actually really look at his dad and say, yeah, I guess it's gonna turn out okay, Dad? But it is a beautiful exchange of humility between them both, and their dynamic is hilarious because they're like accomplices in a world full of magic, and where magic is the coolest thing, and their inability to relate to magic is almost their personal nightmare.
Diane,
Yes.
being the perfect golden child seems wonderful. Why does Isabella struggle with this role in her family?
Isabella struggles to be perfect because it doesn't exist. Being perfect doesn't exist. It's boring. It's not reflective of a human, a full, whole, complete human's emotions. And so having to keep that up is dissatisfying and also sort of empty. And so that's her journey is trying to let go of that crutch almost, of like already knowing who she is, and out of everybody already knowing who she is, and she doesn't want to portray that anymore, and you see that throughout the film.
Jessica, Louisa has super strength. How does her gift weigh her down?
Her gift weighs her down because she knows that she is the only one who can do it. So it's a huge burden because, she's got thoughts and a life of her own going on the inside, and she would love the opportunity to be able to live that out and talk to other people about how she's feeling on the inside. But she knows that at the end of the day, because she is the only person with this incredible, profound gift, she has to do what she has to do at the end of the day. She's got to lift the wagon, she's got to lift the donkeys, and she's got to lift the emotional weight off of her family as well.
Wilmer, the film's setting is inspired by Colombia. What makes the setting so special?
I think what makes the setting of this movie so special is the care and the thoughtfulness that the filmmakers gave in understanding not just the culture, but what makes the DNA of a Colombian, town. What drives them, what is their magic? Is it the music? Is it the food? Is it the people? Is it the colors? Is it the nature in which surrounds, the town? And the answer is that all of the above, and to be able to capsule this together and make it the canvas and where we as characters can paint this adventure for the audiences is I think one of the biggest gifts of this movie.
Diane, how do the Madrigal children receive their gifts? How old are they when it happens, and how does it play out?
The children receive their gifts at a very, very young age, and usually Abuela knows when it's time. And there's a magical door, which is like the door to their bedroom, essentially, or to their world. And when the time is right, the child will walk up to the door and open the door, or be close to the door. And they have to be
touch it,
first.
and
They have to
itself.
close. They have to touch the door and see what their magical gift is. And if the magical gift isn't there, what do you do? What do you do with that in a magical family?
You live in shame.
Exactly.
Encanto is a musical. What song do you sing, and what is it about?
I sing the song Surface Pressure, and it is quite literally about that. It is about, all of the things that you think about on a day-to-day basis, things that you wish that you could say out loud, feelings you wish that you could feel when no one is watching, but holding it all back for the sake of the greater good and your family, and making sure that you are not putting your own burdens before anyone else's, especially when you play such a vital role like literally carrying all of the weight as well as the metaphorical weight for everyone else. The song is about what happens when everything kind of bubbles to the top, and maybe what it will what it would feel like to let the joy kind of linger for a little bit. And then you kind of got to reel it back in again.
Wilmer, what does the story mean to you as a new dad?
You know, this is the first character in which I play a father, where I'm actually really a father in my life. I have an 8-month daughter that quickly became the why. The why anything. So it means everything. It means everything to be able to, in my career, leave these little landmarks in my career that hopefully means something to her. And on a bigger scale, I hope that every young woman, no matter whether you're Latina or not, that can find their voice in this movie as well, and understand that there are so many sounds and so many traditions and so many things to discover about all kinds of different cultures. And I hope that the wondrous spirit wakes up in them after experiencing the magic of Encanto.
Diane, how do you relate personally to your character?
How do I relate to Isabella? Oh gosh, in so many ways. I too just want to be myself so bad, and sometimes we don't know who that is, and for perfectionists or people who have been given that role of being perfect, sometimes it's scary to even try to find out who else are you in there, because everything else is sort of scary and unknown, and because there has been this expectation of you doing everything right, everything perfect, and everything just so, there hasn't been much wiggle room to sort of fall and mess up and, ooh, that wasn't so cute, or ooh, that was a little weird and, interesting, like everything has to be so pretty. So I also relate to that, like not letting myself have any mistakes. And that's not a fun way to live. I want to make mistakes and learn from them and grow and soar and, jump off a cliff but end in the water and swim like Pocahontas underneath.
Beautiful.
Then have my raccoon Miko meet me there.
I want that too.
And all of that.
What do you hope audiences will take away from?
I hope that audiences will take away that though you may feel you have a very specific role placed upon you within your family, within your life, that it's okay to be several things at once. You don't have to be just one thing, though you may be really good at it. Humans are complicated and vast, and there are so many things that we go through on a day-to-day basis. It's very hard to just be perfect all the time, and know that you don't have to be. And when you have these moments where you think that that is the only option, don't be afraid to reach out and really show who you really are, especially to reach out to your family and those people who love you and know you best, because they'll probably surprise you and have your back in a lot of ways that you would never expect. There's a lot more context there than you realize.
Where is the film set, and how does the setting inform the animation? Can you give an example of a particular way of moving or a gesture that consultants shared with you to help convey the place? Example, pointing with their lips.
So where is the place? And so the place is set in Colombia. The movie sets, it's set in Colombia. And we worked with multiple consultants to tell us, to give us like an insight of on the Colombia culture and the Colombia history and the personal relationships between people. The directors actually got to go to Colombia very, very early on in the process to kind of visit the place and learn about the culture and the places and the architecture. So they came back with like a ton of ideas about what they wanted the movie to be like. For us in animation, as we were working with our consultants, the main focus for us was to be really understand like what should we be animating that would transport you into that part of the world. So there were like gestures that people do in Colombia that are very specific. We learned that when people in Colombia, when they point at something, they sometimes point with their lip like this. So when you see Mirabel doing that kind of that kind of gesture, it is very much a Colombian thing that they do over there, and we incorporated that into the film. And yeah, I mean, we our main job as animators is really to act to our characters, but also, since the movie takes place in Colombia, we wanted to make sure it was very specific, and that we were doing justice to the to our characters and make sure they felt like they belong in that part of the world. So hopefully when you watch the movie, you get transported to Colombia.
Hey, Kira, who are the Madrigals and what makes them special? Generally speaking, describe why it was important to help differentiate these characters and how the animation team helped achieve that.
Well, who are the Madrigals? Madrigals are an extraordinary family. It all starts kind of with the matriarch, Abuela, and through tragedy, she and her family were given this gift. They were given this miracle. And so now each of the family members, when they turn 5 years old, they get given a literal magical gift. And so each of these family members have this special power. That is everybody except for Mirabel, who mysteriously did not receive a special gift. But in working on the animation on these characters, it was really important that their magical gifts became sort of a foundational trait of how they moved and what their animation was. So, for example, Luisa has super strength. And so we wanted to be sure that in her movement, she has very strong lines of action in all of the poses, that she feels very grounded and so you can really feel that strong sturdiness, that she's not going to be tipped over or knocked over. And we studied a lot of athletes, especially there were some Olympians and female shot putters that had really amazing physiques, and just kind of watching how somebody with that kind of strength moves about and does normal tasks. And so that was really a big inspiration for every movement that Luisa did. Similarly with like Isabella, who is the golden child, and she is considered perfect in every way. We wanted her to be effortlessly graceful in every movement. So you will see very flowing lines of action in her poses. And when she walks, it's almost like she kind of floats across the screen. And in talking to our cultural consultants, we discovered that beauty pageants are actually a part of Colombian culture. And so there are some very practiced walks and waves that those ladies do. And so we thought, well, that would be a really good pairing for Isabella, because if there was anybody that was going to walk perfectly and wave perfectly, it would be her. So everything with her is very flowy and graceful.
Beautiful. Renato, the house is alive and magical. What were the rules that helped to guide the house's magic? What are some examples of the house's magic?
So what are the examples of the rules that will make the house magic? And so when we first jumped on the film, the directors talked to us about this house that was, that's almost like a family pet that will be caring for you, that will be looking after you, and will be always there for you whenever you need it. So as an animation team, we normally animate characters, and characters are normally people or a anthropomorphic character, like the characters on Zootopia. So animating a house, it was very different than the things we normally do. So we tried to figure out, like, hey, how does that work? If the house is sad, how do we portray that? If the house is saying hello to somebody, how does that work? The best thing we did at the beginning was just establish some ground rules for the house. The directors didn't want the house to be just like a magical, like a house that had that anything in it would move by its own. So we had a few rules in place to where the things that the house could use to emote were things that were attached to it, like tiles or sconces. But if the house needed to move a chair, for instance, the chair couldn't just move by itself. The house needed to pick up tiles or the floorboards underneath it and kind of get the chair to kind of move around. So that was the basics of the rules of how we moved the house. So, and some of the acting choices on it, that was the interesting part of it, where when the house was interacting with Mirabel, he had its own personality and he acted a certain way. He was always there if Mirabel needed something. And creating that relationship between the two of them, thinking of the house as something that Mirabel could relate to, was really important to us. It really drives a lot of the story all the way through the end, and we needed that to be the audience to be very emotionally connected to the house, as not just as a building, but as a character in the film. So that was something that ourselves and our effects team put a lot of effort into it.
Mirabel is a complex character who struggles to fit in. Describe how animators helped to bring her to life in a way that showcased her awkward, quirky personality. And if you can also touch on how the animation style for Mirabel compare with that of her sisters, Isabella and Luisa, and then how did the voice of Stephanie Beatriz inform the character?
So Mirabel and her animation style was one of the trickiest things to discover throughout this whole process of this film. And early on, we had a conversation with the directors about who is Mirabel. And they described a girl who was unlike any other Disney character that we had done before. But also she is a part of her family, but she is not like any other member in her family. So they were emphasizing that you couldn't take any animation from another Disney character or from Isabella or from Luisa, from her sisters, and have it work on Mirabel. So Mirabel was unique, and she was very capable and yet imperfect. And so we, early on in the process, we started doing animation tests, as we always do, to help discover what are these characters like, how are they going to move. And with Mirabel, we were really honestly struggling. We did a lot of animation tests, and we were showing the directors, and we're like, it's not quite right. They were great at sort of guiding us into this brand new territory that we hadn't been before. And some of the pitfalls is in making Mirabel move imperfectly, she could come off as being just klutzy or just stumbling over everything all the time. And that wasn't who she was. And with her being capable, you didn't want her to come off as being almost like a superhero. That was a little bit more of Luisa's territory. So you had to find that right balance. And what it ended up being was, with Mirabel, there's a little bit of a sense of improvisation into everything that she is doing. So she is kind of making it up as she goes. And the other thing that we discovered was that she is different, and her demeanor and her physical performance is different depending on who she is with and depending on the relationship she has with those people. So when you see her in the town, she is full on putting on a show, and she is trying to make everybody believe that she fits in with her family, and she feels like she fits in with her family, and that she feels just as awesome as the rest of them. And when she is with her sisters, you will see a different dynamic between her and Luisa and her and Isabella. Even with her cousin Antonio, who is almost like her best friend, because they still share the same room, because Mirabel never got a gift, so she was never promoted out of that nursery. So you see her, confiding in Antonio, or asking Luisa for support and help, and then you see this kind of sister rivalry with her perfect sister Isabella. There's a little bit of resentment there. And then with her relationship with Abuela, you see Mirabel's posture change. She gets much quieter and insecure because I think Abuela is the ultimate judge in her mind. And then when Mirabel is by herself, you really see kind of the vulnerability and the struggle that she has with kind of putting on this happy face every day and feeling like she's less than in this extraordinary family. But you also see her determination and perseverance to figure out why she wasn't bestowed a similar gift as the rest of her family.
Describe how the approach to animation might change when it comes to a song. Can you give an example of a song and how the animation team approached it?
So yeah, to talk about how we approached animating some of the songs, we as animators, we often, are tasked with the job of animating the personality of these characters and the locomotion of these characters, and so we act through these characters. And in the film, we were also challenged with animating all these songs in the film. And to do that, we had to rely a lot on our choreographers, on choreography. And we partner up with Jamal Sims and as well as Kai Martinez to kind of help us understand, the choreography of the sequences and also the locomotion of the sequences. So in many of these cases, the characters needed to dance, and Kai was partnering with us all the way through animating the shots in the songs, because as it may surprise you, not all of our animators are great dancers. Actually, some of us can't quite dance very well. So having Kai be a partner with us in this process was really crucial to kind of get us to be able to animate these characters believably. Music in Colombia is a huge thing, and they're very proud of their music and their and the way they dance. And we wanted to make sure that was done correctly. So having that partnership with Kai and with Jamal was very important for us. And so when we're animating these characters, dancing is one of the most difficult things for us to do, because it really needs to be done specifically. Every footstep has to be done properly. Every weight shift has to be done properly. On top of that, you also have to animate to a rhythm of a song. You have to be hitting on those beats very properly, so the characters really feel like they're in the moment with the song. And to add another complexity to it, the characters are often acting. There's also when they're singing, there's something going on in their lives, or something that we need to have the character say to get through this act to portray to fulfill a story need, to kind of help carry the story. So all those elements become a very complicated thing for us to do all at once. So having choreographers kind of working with us from the beginning, that was very helpful and crucial to kind of getting the sequences to look as great as they do in the film.
Anthony has a special power to communicate with animals. What was your approach to the animals? What's the balance of authenticity? I can't even speak today. Authenticity and stylization for Encanto.
Yeah, so Antonio does have a special gift. He was bestowed the special gift to talk to animals and understand them. And, we have some pretty ferocious animals featured in the film. And if you are a parent of a 5-year-old and you see your young son interacting with a jaguar, you might be a little fearful. So we had to really find the right balance between sort of the wildness of some of these creatures and the friendliness of them. We wanted to make sure that these animals were believable. We needed to find the balance between them being realistic animals that are very wild, but not be endangering Antonio in any way, because his gift is actually this connection with these animals. So in a way, he has a bit of a taming effect on them. But we also did not want these animals to feel anthropomorphized, like that they were going to suddenly start speaking, in English or Spanish to Antonio. So we needed to find that right balance. So we were very truthful to sort of the anatomy of these characters and the locomotion of these characters. But in their facial expressions, you will find a bit of softness. You will find some of their eye expressions are are showing a bit more white and around their eyes and being maybe a little less wild feeling. The jaguar might have slightly less ferocious looking fangs in some scenes, so that Antonio never felt like he was in danger with these wild animals.
Where is the film set, and what were some of the key inspirations that helped shape the look of the film?
So our Encanto film is set in Colombia, in South America, and some of the design choices we did was first looking at the research, of course, and also having amazing consultants that were able to provide us with what we needed to create this beautiful world and these beautiful characters. And one of the things that we learned from Colombia was just how everything's so handmade. And we really wanted to try to get that into our film.
The house is alive. It's a character. Can you describe the look of the house and how it was built to show off its special abilities?
Yeah, so our house, the main house, the casita, is a character, and it has its own personality. And the design of it is inspired by some colonial houses from Barichara, from Salento, and from Cartagena in Colombia. And just looking at all those references, and also thinking about our characters, our family. There's 14 characters, and we had to all fit them in this amazing house. So just one of the things that came into the design was creating enough space, for these characters to move around, and also there was a lot of thought of there were these magical rooms. So we had to just where are we gonna put them? Where are they gonna be? Each of the magical doors, and where's going to be, for example, Abuela's, room. Like she had to be sort of the somewhere where it could be seen, since she's the matriarch of the family. So just thinking about all those things, and even how is this house going to be moving? There's so many moving pieces that we had to do to think about those things. So, for example, a lot of the tiles carry characters or move around objects, because one thing that we had in this film, there are so many there are certain rules that we wanted to put, so that, for example, there are materials that cannot bend, like, wood and things like that. So we wanted to be true to the materials so that the house would be able to be a little more believable. So like tiles, and if they're moving something with wood, it would not be bending, for example.
The doors of the house are important parts of the family's story. Can you explain the significance of the doors and the design behind them to help convey this quality?
Yeah, so the doors are very important in our film. These are magical doors, and each character that has a gift has a magical door. And in each of the doors, there's like a sort of like an illustration of the character and the iconography of each of the characters. And it just symbolizes the magic and this magical room that is behind that door. And, there was a lot of iteration from these designs, but we always knew that, for example, Mirabel, our main character, doesn't get one because she doesn't have a gift. So her door was kind of a plain, very normal door. So that made just even helped us story-wise to make that contrast even more of having, the pressure of having this amazing family surrounding Mirabel, with these amazing doors and these amazing worlds behind that door, but she doesn't have that.
Speaking of the family, the Madrigals are a large extended family. How were the characters designed to reflect the diversity in Colombia and be quickly recognizable?
we have a large, diverse, family that is from Colombia. And early on, the directors sort of had that in mind since day one. And, one of the main things in Colombia is such a diverse place where you have people that are Afro-Colombian, people from descent, people that are indigenous descent, people that are more European descent. So just that idea of just the nature of the country having all this amazing, diversity, it was one of the things that just fell very natural into the story. And designing all this family was, really fun and exciting, but also very, very challenging, because there were a lot of characters that we had to design, and just we wanted to always kind of keep them together to make sure that we're okay. The three sisters, they look alike, but they're slightly different, like for example, the oldest sister Isabela, she has a little bit more indigenous descent on her, and she looks more like her abuelo, and then Luisa looks a little bit more like her dad Agustin. So just thinking about those things and who's related to who and all that, it was a lot of collaboration, with also our consultants, that came abroad, and we had also Afro-Colombian consultant, and we had also our African-American cultural group at Disney. So we were able to get a lot of different eyes to make sure that we were in line with, to create this diverse family.
Describe Mirabel, her look, her glasses, her costume, and how each detail helps convey her personality.
Yeah, so Mirabel is a very bubbly, fun kind of character, and she's the one without a gift. Thinking about her costume, the directors always wanted something to have movement on her. Like they wanted the fluffy, beautiful curly hair, and they knew they wanted the glasses too. And that came actually from an inspiration from one of our consultants, Alejandra. She had like the curly hair, and she had glasses, and the directors were drawn to the idea of based on the theme of the story, one of the perspective themes, to have her in the glasses and the curly hair. And then from there, starting to elaborate on the costume. So we looked at, folkloric costumes, and one of the main things that we had since day one, we wanted her to embroider, her costume like what a teenager would do on their diary, kind of like just little drawings and scribbles and things like that. So we thought it would be really fun to do that into her costume. So we had an amazing costume lead, Neisa Bove, and she came, and then she just made it, made who Mirabel is today. And, talking to consultants also, and making sure everything was in line. Neisa had found this beautiful blouse from Belez Santander in Colombia. And, it was like white with like a black trim, and it had just like embroidery of flowers. And she thought, well, maybe we can just take the main blouse, and then Mirabel would embroider her own kind of iconography in there. And she also came up with the idea of that, because she loves her family so much, there would be a lot of just different icons that she would do for each of the members of the family, and just kind of embroider them into her skirt and into the blouse. So it just becomes almost like a storytelling into her costume, and even her espadrilles, the shoes, the alpargatas, like she's got embroidery on them, like if they were almost sneakers, and some teenagers kind of draw on them. So it just became a very iconic look, for our main character.
Who is Mirabel, and why is she unique within her family?
Mirabel is a 15-year-old member of a family of 3 generations, and she is at that age where she's trying to understand how she fits in within a family that everyone has a magical gift. And she's the only kid who didn't get a magical gift. And for her, she's trying to understand that piece of it. And I think what I love about this character is she's incredibly lovable. Her heart is always in the right place. She's trying so hard, but she's also a bit flawed because she's trying to figure out something that she's going to learn is all internal and that she already knows herself over the course of the film.
Explain how filmmakers determine what these special gifts might be and how they connect to people or family members we all know.
So there was a lot of thought given to what would the gifts be for these family members. And it really was trying to figure out how do we use these gifts in a way that are going to help tell the story. So each family member has a gift that helps support this community. It might be the gift of strength, it could be the gift of putting beautiful flowers around, it can be the gift of being able to see the future, or a gift of being able to shape shift into different people to help solve problems in the moment in time. But what we needed to do is figure out how do we make that relatable, because in our world, people don't have those magical gifts. And so what we really did was dive into what are sort of those characteristics of families. There's always the character, the person who's the strong one of the family, the kind of rock of the family. There's the one who's the golden child, who everything seems to be perfect for. There's the one who can hear everything, a little bit of the gossip of the family, or the one who thinks they can see the future, but has always seen something in the negative side of things, or the one who's the healer, or the one who's the emotional one. So we really tried to put it into those areas where people could relate directly to it and say, I feel I am most like that individual. And it's not about their gift, it's truly about what they represent within this family.
I'm going to come to you one more time, Clark. Describe how family is a key theme in this film and how we see each other and how we are seen.
Family is at the core of this film, and it always was. From the very beginning, Byron and Jared talked about wanting to tell a story about family and knowing what an important part that is within the culture of Latin America and obviously within the country of Colombia. It is at the core of this film. It's a 3-generation family that all lives within one house where everyone has their part within the family. And for Mirabel, she's the one character who didn't get a gift. She's trying to figure out how she belongs within this family. And I think what the film explores is the fact that we all think we know our family members, but we actually probably don't unless we've spent time asking them questions. And it really is about perspective and understanding. And over the course of the film, we learn a lot more about these characters that is under the surface, things that they haven't been expressing outwardly. And that's the journey that Mirabel goes on. And from that, the family becomes stronger. And I think that really is the theme of the film is through perspective and understanding, we become stronger as a family.
How is the house actually a character in this story? And what were the guidelines regarding how its magic actually works?
Just like the character of the water in Moana, which is a character, the house in Encanto is also a character. And from the beginning, the directors talked about the fact that they thought this would be an incredible way to bring this house to life in animation. But the complications of it are you have to think about, well, how do you do that? They wanted truth in materials. They wanted to make sure it felt very real, that any movement that happened within the house could actually happen within a house, that it would be about floorboards and tiles and shelves moving. It wouldn't be about bending something that can't actually bend. So that requires a lot of work on our teams to come together to figure out how do you actually animate that? How do you rig the prop or the property to actually be able to move that way? So there was an incredible amount of work done in it. But then you also have to think, how does that fit within the story? And I think that was the thing we spent a lot of time thinking about, which was, if the house is alive, is the house antagonist? Is the house in support of? Is the house sometimes in support of and sometimes against? Is the house giving advice? And so that was really the nuance we always tried to figure out to make sure that the audience would believe that this house was doing things for the right reasons and fall in love with it, because that's the ultimate goal, is to make sure the audience falls in love with the house as a character. And I think the team has done an incredible job, and I'm excited for people to see it.
Great. Clark, how does Encanto represent the evolution of the Walt Disney Animation Studios?
Encanto is the 60th animated feature from Walt Disney Animation Studios, which is a pretty incredible thing to think about, that 60 animated feature films have been made. over the course of 98 years. And as a piece of that, Encanto is both a reflection of the past and of the future. I think with respect to the future and it representing the future of Disney animation and animated films for that in general, it's really tapping into what we can do technically today. I mean, this film is stunningly visual when you see these characters and the diversity of the characters and the diversity of the hair and the textures and the layering of the cloth, all things we couldn't have done in the past. Really, it's showing where we have come as a studio technically. It's also talking about thematically things that are important in today's world, which is family, which has always been important, but understanding and perspective within a family. And if you're a character who believes somehow you don't belong, what does that mean? And how do you figure out who you are in a way that feels great and that you have an understanding of that?
Who are the Madrigals and what makes them special?
The Madrigal family is a family that lives in a house, in a magical house deep in the hills of Colombia. And they were given a miracle. The abuela was given a miracle. And through this miracle, they live in this magical house. And each of them, when they're young, they are given a magical gift. Every single one that is born into the family is given a gift, whether it's the gift to heal, the gift to see the future, the gift to control the weather. Everyone except for one, Mirabel.
Okay, Clark, that goes right into our next question. Who is Mirabel and why is she unique within her family?
Mirabel is a 15-year-old member of a family of 3 generations, and she is at that age where she's trying to understand how she fits in within a family that everyone has a magical gift. And she's the only kid who didn't get a magical gift. And for her, she's trying to understand that piece of it. And I think what I love about this character is she's incredibly lovable. Her heart is always in the right place. She's trying so hard, but she's also a bit flawed because she's trying to figure out something that she's going to learn is all internal and that she already knows herself over the course of the film.
Yvette, explain how when each child discovers what his or her gift will be and provide some examples of these gifts and how they benefit the whole community.
So when when they turn 5 on their 5th birthday, a door appears in this magical house, and there is their gift ceremony where they open the door and the magic is revealed. Their door is designed in a certain way. The magic comes through in their door, and they open up the door to this amazing room. And the room always kind of goes along with the gift. For example, we see Antonio in the film where he gets his door and immediately a toucan lands on his arm and he's able to communicate with animals. What an amazing gift. And he goes into this room, which is based on, which was inspired by the Chocó rainforest. And he has this beautiful tree and this beautiful room with all these different animals come in from the Encanto and come in and live in Antonio's room.
Clark, explain how filmmakers determine what these special gifts might be and how they connect to people or family members we all know.
So there was a lot of thought given to what would the gifts be for these family members. And it really was trying to figure out how do we use these gifts in a way that are going to help tell the story. So each family member has a gift that helps support this community. Might be the gift of strength, could be the gift of putting beautiful flowers around. It can be the gift of being able to see the future, or a gift of being able to shape shift into different people to help solve problems in the moment in time. But what we needed to do is figure out how do we make that relatable, because in our world, people don't have those magical gifts. And so what we really did was dive into what are sort of those characteristics of families. There's always the character, the person who's the strong one of the family, the kind of rock of the family. There's the one who's the golden child, who everything seems to be perfect for. There's the one who can hear everything, a little bit of the gossip of the family, or the one who thinks they can see the future, but has always seen something in the negative side of things, or the one who's the healer, or the one who's the emotional one. So we really tried to put it into those areas where people could relate directly to it and say, I feel I am most like that individual. And it's not about their gift, it's truly about what they represent within this family.
I'm going to come to you one more time, Clark. Describe how family is a key theme in this film and how we see each other and how we are seen.
Family is at the core of this film, and it always was. From the very beginning, Bryon and Jared talked about wanting to tell a story about family and knowing what an important part that is within the culture of Latin America and obviously within the country of Colombia. It is at the core of this film. It's a 3-generation family that all lives within one house, where everyone has their part within the family. And for Mirabel, she's the one character who didn't get a gift. She's trying to figure out how she belongs within this family. And I think what the film explores is the fact that we all think we know our family members, but we actually probably don't unless we've spent time asking them questions. And it really is about perspective and understanding. And over the course of the film, we learn a lot more about these characters that is under the surface, things that they haven't been expressing outwardly. And that's the journey that Mirabel goes on. And from that, the family becomes stronger. And I think that really is the theme of the film, is through perspective and understanding, we become stronger as a family.
Generally speaking, how would you describe the voice cast of Encanto? And specifically, what does Stephanie Beatriz bring to Mirabel?
The voice cast of Encanto we feel like we are fortunate to work with this amazing team of actors. And there's so many, each of these characters, they live on the page and they live in the boards, but once we actually hire the voice cast and they bring their talent to these characters, it's where we really see the characters come to life. And it has been so amazing to work with these characters for so long. And once we get those voices in there, whether it's Wilmer Valderrama with Agustin, or Jessica Darrow with Luisa, or Diane Guerrero with Isabella, it's really such a huge part and such an exciting part of the film to see these characters really start coming to life. With Stephanie Beatriz, so Stephanie Beatriz is our Mirabel and is amazing at it. She came in and really has so much. She brings so much to this character, whether it's her improv, she would read what's on the page and she's like, oh, can I try this? And bring great improv and comedy to the character. And really, she would be vulnerable and really in the softest, most delicate moments in the film, really being able to go there. And then she sang, and she has this amazing singing voice, and who knew that she could sing like that? And it was been such a gift to have her on the show and for her to be our Mirabel. She truly is our Mirabel.
This is to you, Yvette, again. Explain the process of working with Lin-Manuel Miranda and the kinds of songs he wrote for Encanto. Do you have a favorite?
Working with Lin-Manuel Miranda has been such a treat. I was fortunate enough to work on Moana, and so I got a little glimpse into working with him on that film. But what was special about Encanto is Lin-Manuel came on very early on in the process, and it's not typical that we have our songwriter on so early on. And so he, because he had worked with Jared on Moana and formed this great relationship, and when Bryon and Jared talked about doing a musical, Lin, of course, was the right person to bring on. And he was on so early, he was able to go on the research trip with them and really kind of immerse himself in the Colombian culture. And so he's been involved in every single screening that we do, really involved in the story. We would meet with him on a very regular basis and keeping him updated on what was going on in the story. And, he would talk about ideas that he had for song or even for story. And it was such a great collaborative effort with all of us kind of coming together to talk about the songs. And in regards to his song, Lin-Manuel is Lin-Manuel. He's a musical genius, and so it's not. There's no question on kind of when he would deliver a song. We're like, oh, it was such a treat to get it and to be able to listen to what he was able to deliver to the different songs. But every single time a song would come in, I just kind of pinch myself and be like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I can't wait to hear what it becomes, because it really is just his demo at his house. Doing it, and then it would grow into this amazing song that we have in the film. Do I have a favorite? I think I have about 8 favorites. It's a cop-out, I know, but they're all so good. All of the songs are so good in the film. It's hard to pick just one, but I think it depends on what mood I'm in.
Fair. I'm gonna do one more for you. Describe the look of this film, big picture. How did Colombia inspire the filmmakers? I think you touched on this a little bit, but just a little more.
Colombia, the film is inspired by Colombia. And when Byron and Jared went down there on their research trip, they were so, they were able to see for themselves the beauty of the country and how diverse the country is, not only in the people and the ethnicities, but also in the biodiversity and how different all the different regions within Colombia is. And so when they came back and we really started building the world, it was a big push on the film to make sure that we are representing Colombia as beautiful as it is, and taking all the beautiful parts of it and really trying to squeeze it into one film. The film is 90 minutes, so we couldn't fit all of Colombia into the film, but we worked very hard to make sure that we were showing, the beauty that we found throughout the country.
Clark, how is the house actually a character in this story? And what were the guidelines regarding how its magic actually works?
Just like the character of the water in Moana, which is a character, the house in Encanto is also a character. And from the beginning, the directors talked about the fact that they thought this would be an incredible way to bring this house to life in animation. But the complications of it are, you have to think about, well, how do you do that? They wanted truth in materials. They wanted to make sure it felt very real, that any movement that happened within the house could actually happen within a house, that it would be about floorboards and tiles and shelves moving. It wouldn't be about bending something that can't actually bend. So that requires a lot of work on our teams to come together to figure out how do you actually animate that? How do you rig the prop or the property to actually be able to move that way? So there was an incredible amount of work done in it. But then you also have to think, how does that fit within the story? And I think that was the thing we spent a lot of time thinking about, which was, if the house is alive, is the house antagonist? Is the house in support of? Is the house sometimes in support of and sometimes against? Is the house giving advice? And so that was really the nuance we always tried to figure out, to make sure that the audience would believe that this house was doing things for the right reasons and fall in love with it, because that's the ultimate goal, is to make sure the audience falls in love with the house as a character. And I think the team has done an incredible job, and I'm excited for people to see it.
Great. Clark, how does Encanto represent the evolution of the Walt Disney Animation Studios? Encanto
is the 60th animated feature from Walt Disney Animation Studios, which is a pretty incredible thing to think about, that 60 animated feature films have been made over the course of 98 years. And as a piece of that, Encanto is both a reflection of the past and of the future, I think. With respect to the future, and it representing the future of Disney animation and animated films for that in general, it's really tapping into what we can do technically today. I mean, this film is stunningly visual when you see these characters and the diversity of the characters and the diversity of the hair and the textures and the layering of the cloth, all things we couldn't have done in the past. Really, it's showing where we have come as a studio technically. It's also talking about thematically things that are important in today's world, which is family, which has always been important, but understanding and perspective within a family. And if you're a character who believes somehow you don't belong, what does that mean, and how do you figure out who you are in a way that feels great, and that you have an understanding of that.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released.